You're listening to the Nothing But Good podcast, a show that believes you should know where your food comes from, or more specifically, who it comes from. Each week, we bring you new interviews with the makers and founders of the brands you love so you can see how they came to be and what makes them different. We focus on telling the stories of emerging brands and brands who are committed to using better for you ingredients in the snacks they create. Every episode of the Nothing But Good podcast is brought to you by Oh Goody Box, a snack box subscription service that sends healthier snacks directly to your home or office so that you have the fuel you need to make your greatest impact each day. Order your first box at ohgoodybox.com and use code PODCAST for 15% off your first order. That's ohgoody, OHGOODIE box.com and code PODCAST for 15% off your first order. Now grab a snack and let's get to today's show. All right, Claudia, thank you so much for being on the show. For everyone watching and listening, would you mind introducing yourself and telling them a little bit about Sow Good Foods?
Absolutely. And by the way, thank you for having us.
Yeah,
So my name is Claudia Goldfarb, and I'm the founder and CEO of Sow Good Incorporated. And we're a freeze-dried food company. And we started our company right as the pandemic was hitting, and primarily because we saw a few needs out there. We were experts in the freeze-dried technology space on the pet side. And when the pandemic happened, like everybody else, there were empty shelves in grocery stores that no one that I could remember ever experienced here in the US.
Mhm.
And so we looked at kind of, the landscape and said, we need to get involved. We want to manufacture healthy snacks and foods that are shelf stable, that will be available, throughout the pandemic, or should anything like this ever happen again. And in addition to that, we really wanted to create jobs. Watching so many businesses shutter was just heartbreaking. And for us, manufacturing has always been such a great opportunity for people that, maybe don't have an educational background or, different sort of skills. So that's how So Good started, which was really just to create healthy, affordable snacks that were shelf stable and help create jobs.
I love that so much. I think you're the first person I've met who started a business as a direct need from the pandemic. I've heard of people, starting a business right before the pandemic hit and then like all of the things that happened because of that. But you are
Yeah.
the first person I'm speaking to who saw a direct need caused by the pandemic and like, let's fix it. I love that.
Yeah.
So good. Well, you were saying you've seen the benefits of manufacturing in the past. You're a freeze-dried expert. So what were you doing before So Good started?
Good question. So we were in the pet space. We were manufacturing dog food and treats. We started with antlers for dogs and then did jerky for dogs, and then finally went into freeze-dried technology, freeze-dried food for dogs. And the reason we became experts, or how we became experts, I think like most entrepreneurs out there, it's through necessity. It's trial by fire. Um, Freeze-dried expertise really lives in Germany. Germany really just owns the freeze-dried technology space. And far second and third, you have India and China. And then, nowhere even on the list is the US. We had a need for immediate freeze dryers in our facility, and the only place we could get them were in the US. So we ordered 4 freeze dryers, and just to give you some scope, they're about $1 to $1.5 million a freeze dryer. So it's a big investment. Yeah. And, so here we are, we're going to go hot and heavy and freeze dried dog food because we just knew that was the next big thing. We spend all of this money on these freeze dryers, and, 7 out of 10 times, most of them were not working. And it was just, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? So we hired some mechanical engineers, we hired refrigeration experts. We took these machines apart and rebuilt them so that they would work.
Wow.
And that's really how we became experts in freeze dried technology. And so it really was trial by fire. And I feel like that's such a common thread that I hear from most entrepreneurs
Mhm.
or most, business people. It's they're faced with a problem, in their manufacturing space or their sales space that they don't know how to fix or tackle. And that's when innovation happens. And I think it's so exciting.
I do too. I love that. I'm just glad that you kept going. I feel like my heart dropped when you said it was like $4 million for this investment and they're not working. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, you fix it. That's what you do.
You
You fix
do.
it. Yeah. So absolutely love it. What made you, are you guys still in the pet food space or did you leave
No.
that completely and go into So Good?
Yeah, so we sold the pet company probably about a year before the pandemic happened.
Okay.
And, Ira and I, my husband and my co founder, were just looking around and we were maybe going to take some time off. We weren't really sure what we were going to do next. And then the pandemic happened. And, that really was just a motivation and an inspiration for us. Both of our sets of parents, I was born in Mexico City. Ira's parents survived the Holocaust and,
Yeah.
moved from Poland to Israel and then to the US. And so, we're the American success story and the immigrant success story. And so, job creation, manufacturing, they're not buzzwords for us. They're really what shaped our lives, made our lives, and it's what we want to pay forward.
Gosh, I love that so much. So, what has it been like starting a business in the pandemic, a food business in the pandemic, where you can't really give out samples at a grocery store or have meetings face to face or like in person with people? So, what are some of the struggles you've had to overcome to get where you are today?
So it's been a challenge, definitely. Not one that we anticipated to last as long as it did.
Yeah.
I think so many of us in the beginning thought, okay, how long could this possibly last, right? Um, I don't think anyone thought 2 years later we would still be there. And so, it really was a struggle because trade shows, which is kind of how we built our previous company, um, didn't exist anymore. Events were canceled, in person demoing was canceled. All the buyers went home and worked from home. So it was definitely a struggle. I think that for us, we were incredibly fortunate that we have a really strong board of directors that's very well versed, super savvy, and very involved. And so for us, it was really about just putting everybody's heads together and saying, okay, what do we do? How do we solve this problem? And I think that that's probably a common theme in everything that Ira and I have ever done is no matter what, pandemic, freeze dryers, you're going to have problems and issues. And it's just a matter of, buckling down and working your way through it. And so we got creative. We just started stalking people on LinkedIn or, looking at anywhere you could find a buyer's list and sending out samples. On the sample side, we're definitely over budget on what we've sent out because you didn't have those live events or those demoing events. And for us, the quality of our product is so amazing. And I don't, everyone thinks their product's amazing. I eat
It
our
is.
products every day. I mean, it is my daily staple for breakfast and lunch. And so, our philosophy was if they taste it, we will win. And so we really went, hot and heavy on sending samples out.
I love that. And that I can see why you would be over budget as a snack box company. Shipping is crazy, absolutely insane. So I could see why, in a situation where you had to ship everything out instead of just being at one centralized location, it would be very easy to go over budget on that. But I think you're right. If you taste it, you love it. It it sells itself. It's so good. So, oh, it's so good. Okay, that was cute.
I
Okay.
know.
um, well, gosh, for where you guys are now, what's your full product line look like? I know you have freeze dried fruit. There's granola. Am I missing anything? I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
listeners have the full spectrum of what you guys do.
So we started with freeze-dried fruits and smoothies. And smoothies were really a result of, we had all of these great freeze-dried fruit products. And Lexi, my daughter, lived in New York. And so every day I'd get the little ping on my credit card, $11 for a smoothie. And I was like, okay, you're a little expensive, my child, but you're being healthy. So then she's like, Mommy, instead of having a protein bar every morning that's full of preservatives and all these other things, you really need to start having, fresh smoothies, fresh fruit, things like that. And so I tried making smoothies on my own at home. And what would drive me crazy is I'd get the bag of spinach and I'd get the blueberries and the strawberries and all these things. By the second, third day, I'd already have waste and spoilage and products going bad. And so I'd end up throwing up so much fresh fruit and produce. And that's such a huge issue here in the US. We throw away so much product. And so, as we're looking at these freeze dried products, I'm like, wait, this has a shelf life of 3 years. Why don't I make smoothies out of this? And so, the lights turn on, and I'm like, we're going to do smoothies. And so, that's really how the smoothies came to be. And what I love about the smoothies, especially, Lexi, when she was in New York apartments are small.
Yes.
Your refrigerator's not big, your freezer's not big, you don't have a lot of space for frozen product or fresh product. Our smoothies can live in a shelf, can live in your box. And when we're shipping it to customers, unlike a lot of other food companies, we don't have to ship frozen. We don't have to overnight because it's shelf stable. So our environmental impact on the emission side is lower. And so that was the smoothies. And then, part of the pillars of So Good is we have a cultural doc called Sewing Excellence. And it's really how we try to live within our four walls every day. And Sewing Excellence is about exactly that, being excellent in everything we do every day for ourselves, for our teammates, for our company, for our customers, for our communities. And, really evaluating what our environmental impact, what our waste is really important to us. One of our weeds that we try to get rid of within our four walls is waste. And so, you know, in the snacks and in the smoothies, we would need whole raspberries or, the full slice of strawberry. Well, like everything else, we'd have little out of spec strawberries or little out of spec blueberries that we couldn't use in the snacks or in the smoothies. And that's how our granola was born. We decided to upcycle those products and use them in our granola products, which they have now become my favorite of all of our product lines. I have 4 little squares every morning, and our granola is snackable, so that makes it even
I
better.
love that about your granola.
Um, and so, those are our product lines.
I love that. I'm so intrigued on the smoothie side of things. So for anyone who might be having questions like me out there, it comes in a it's in a bag or a bowl, or and then do you put it in a blender? Do you add water? Like what
Yeah.
happens? How do you get that smoothie texture?
Yeah, no, great question. So I wish I had a sample in front of me. It comes in a smoothie cup. I do have a smoothie cup in
Oh,
front
they're
of me.
so
Yeah.
cute.
And so inside this smoothie cup will be a bunch of freeze-dried fruit, and we use hemp hearts, chia seeds,
Ooh.
things like that. And it's all like whole raspberries. So you'll actually see the fruit and the hemp hearts and the chia seeds. You stick it in a blender with water, ice, and you blend it for 60 to 90 seconds, and then you'll have a full smoothie. And I don't know if you can see, but like here we have where the water line is, where the
Yes.
ice line is. So, we
I
made it
love that.
super simple for you to be able to make your own smoothie.
Gosh, I absolutely love that. One of the things, you know, I I go in these phases. So I'm not gonna say I have a smoothie every day, but when I'm being like good or trying to get on track or doing my liver cleanse or whatever it might be, I go and I'll go to Costco and I'll buy, like you said, the bags of spinach, the blueberries, the all of the things. And it drives my husband crazy because Costco might be a good deal, but it churns so quickly. And he's like,
Yeah.
Jenny, you're wasting it. And I'm like, I'm not trying to waste it, but I can only put so much into a smoothie in one given day, and it's just the two of us. And so I love this idea where you could have this shelf stable smoothie, like packaged ready to go. All you have to do is add the ice and the water, and you could have variety too, just by buying the different ones from you without having your entire fridge filled with all of this produce where you might only get to a quarter of it or half of it. So
Yeah,
absolutely
absolutely.
genius. My mind is blown by this. For freeze dried product, is the nutrition value the same as if you were to eat the whole apple fresh, or what changes or doesn't change in the process?
Yeah, so great question. Freeze dried keeps, anywhere between 95 to 97% of the nutritional value of the original product. So it is super healthy and super great for you. And across all of our product lines, one of the things that we were committed to is no preservatives.
Mm.
So our products are preserved through the technology, not through any sort of additives or anything like that. And, when we started So Good, we didn't buy off the shelf freeze dryers. We built our own freeze dryer from scratch,
Wow.
specifically for fruits and veggies. So we freeze dry at a colder temperature and we pull more vacuum. So that gives us that crunchier texture that we're looking for in a snack.
I love that. One of the things that I loved when I saw it So Good come across our desk was we get a lot of dried fruit from companies, but the freeze dried was unique. But then also, usually, like you get an apple and it's like an apple ring or something.
Right.
Yours are like, it looks like apple still. I'm just
Yeah.
like, this is amazing. I'm like, it looks like someone just cut it up and froze it, and it's beautiful. So just it looks like a real apple.
And that's absolutely what it is. We slice the apples. The way the process goes is you freeze it to negative 40 degrees. So instantaneously, you're stopping, any sort of like nutritional degradation in that product or any spoilage. And then the freeze dryer, it takes the ice crystals in the product and turns them into a gas instantaneously. So that's why it keeps all of the original shape, color, size, nutritional value. The only thing that's missing is the water, which is what creates, degradation and waste.
Gosh, I love that so much.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's kind of the gist of the questions I had for you specifically about your product. I did have a little bit of a selfish question in
Okay.
regards to building a company with your spouse. Um, how has that been? How you guys have been doing this for a while, it seems like. So, what have you learned for anyone out there, myself, who's trying to do the same thing with their spouse and wondering what in God's name are they doing? So
I will say that's probably the question I get the most, especially from our friends,
right.
because, we're with each other 24/7. I think that for us, we have very complementary skill sets
Mm.
that don't overlap. So we kind of have our own spheres of influence that work really well together without causing a lot of, headbutting. We're both perfectionists. We're both incredibly motivated, incredibly competitive,
Mm.
and neither of us cares when when we have to have strong conversations, we're just going to go for it.
I love it.
Because yeah, you just have to, especially when it's something about you're so passionate about. And so I think it's just really, it's got to be the right fit. Ira and
Yeah.
I work really well together and always have. I don't think that it works for every marriage out there. And the other thing is, your work relationship and your marriage have to be separate. We make quality time twice a week for date night, and we don't talk shop. Those are the rules. We just enjoy being a married couple. And I think having that space is really important. And we also have our me time. I love playing tennis. Ira loves playing poker. And so we make time for those things outside of work, and it just gives us time to kind of decompress. And then when we come back, it's golden.
I love that so much. There's so much in what you just said that I absolutely love. And what I heard you say is you guys have the same values, you have the same work ethic, you guys have this beautiful mission of reducing waste and putting healthy food on shelves. And so I can see how that would be very unifying, whereas your actual skill sets are different. So
Yeah.
the base, the core is the same. You're united in your mission, and then you go to work in your own lanes for the common good. And that sounds amazing. And then also, I just love that you mentioned having your own individual passions still, and also having date nights. I think in entrepreneurship worlds, a lot of times you meet people and it's all about the business all the time, and it just becomes overwhelming. You lose yourself in the mission. And so I think it's such just wise advice for anyone listening to make time for both. So I love that so much.
Yeah. No, you said it much better than I did.
No,
So I'm
I
going to have
agree
you
because what you
do all the speaking going forward, because that
absolutely
was
not.
beautifully done.
100% not. I am just like, I appreciate what you shared. Starting a business with my husband, there's definitely been some big explosion moments, and I'm just like, oh gosh, I'm like, I don't know why we're doing this, but we believe in what we're doing, so like just keep going. So I love what you shared there.
And I think, you have to have clear boundaries. Ira and I are very cognizant of not stepping on each other's toes, but we're also a very collaborative environment. And we
Yeah,
do that across the team. And so I think, that also makes it easier for us because it's not just he and I. We have a pretty large team that we're working with, and it's really collaborative. And so I think that makes it easier as well because it's not just he and I making decisions, and, just really listening to our team. And I think that also helps.
I think so too. I did think of one more thing. I saw you guys
Please.
were just on was it, I think I saw you on Instagram, you guys went to your first trade show. Is that right?
So we were just at Fancy Food
Fancy
in
food.
Las Vegas.
That's a big
Um,
one.
yeah, and it was amazing. It was just so lovely to see people again and talk to people. And I love, probably one of my favorite you know, parts of my job is introducing people to Sow Good. Especially, people walk by and they have no idea what freeze dried is, or have never had a smoothie, or, I don't eat granola. That's too healthy for me. I'm like, just come on over, give it a try. And I wish we had recordings of they'll take a bite or they'll take a sip and they'll be like, oh my gosh, that's so good. And I'm like, aha, it is.
Oh, I love it so much. I was
Yeah.
I was very excited to see that. I was like, oh, they get to go. Like trade
Yeah.
shows are opening back up, which is a big deal in our industry. So very
It's
excited for
huge.
you
And we're
guys.
gonna be at Expo West, which will be the first time we've ever been there, and I heard
That is
that's
huge.
massive.
That
Yeah.
is massive. I've gone 1 year, and that was I grew up going to trade shows in the industry, and I thought like the ones in Vegas were big. And then we went to the what is it called? The
Expo
Expo
West?
West? Yeah, Expo
Yeah.
West. And I was just like, what is happening? This is insane. So, but in such a good way, and so many amazing brands there, like yourself, who are
Yeah.
trying to do something better with prepackaged food and the way that it's grown and sustainable and all the things. So, gosh, Claudia, I've loved this conversation so much. I want to be respectful of your time. So, for anybody who's just like, I've got to get my hands on a smoothie. I want to try this granola, the freeze-dried fruit. Obviously, they can get it from us at Oh Goody, but if they wanted to order directly from you guys, where should they follow you? Where can they go make a purchase? All of the things.
Yeah, so the best place right now is our website, and that's thisissowgood.com. And sow is SOW because we're sowing goodness in our planet, in our communities, in our company. And so that's the best place for them to go to now.
I love it. And am I correct that you guys also have a podcast?
We do. It's called Good Stories. And one of the things that we want to focus on is, really shining a light on all the beautiful entrepreneurial stories out there. I mean, this country is just founded on these entrepreneurs that go all in because of a passion or a belief. And so that's what we're focusing on our podcast.
I love it. Well, if this conversation with you is any inclination of what that's like, I'm sure there'll be a lot of new subscribers. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Nothing But Good podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's show, and if you did, we'd be so grateful if you could leave a review and share this episode with your friends. Before you go, make sure you're subscribed so that you are always the first to know when a new episode is released. And don't forget to follow at OGoodyBox on Instagram so you can get an even deeper look into how we decide which products get placed in our snack boxes. Last but not least, visit ogoodybox.com and make sure you use promo code PODCAST for 15% off your first box. Links to everything are in today's show notes. Until next time, happy snacking.